Hey, Legal Eagles. Remember all those crypto and fintech law courses from law school? Probably not, unless you took mine. So it's time for you to reskill, upskill, and lead. Join our Pivot Your Practice summer web training series so you can go beyond your JD to 10x your value in Web3. Gain essential knowledge and strategies in financial regulation, compliance, IP, and more. With only 20 seats available, don't miss out on over $5,400 in value without wasting time or money on traditional approaches that, quite frankly, haven't caught up to the future client's needs or even present-day realities. Register now at AdvantageEvans.com and go to the head of my class. That's AdvantageEvans.com. Regardless of the tribal wars around coins and tokens and projects, what we all can agree on is that we want a clear environment, regulatory environment. We want safe rules. We want to know that this business will stay here in the United States and not move overseas. And that's going to come with clarity and a better mix of relying on rules in addition to enforcement and not enforcement alone. Welcome to Tech Intersect. I'm your host, Tanya Evans, and my life and work exist at the heart of law, business, and technology. Yeah, I've earned a few fancy titles and degrees over the years, but the bottom line is I'm a writer, speaker, teacher, and lifelong learner, and I'm really excited that you've joined me on this journey. So what is Tech Intersect? Well, it's authentic, empowering conversations with really interesting guests who demystify complex topics to prepare you for the future, because your future is now. And it exists where law, business, and tech intersect. Get ready to listen, learn, and leverage. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to have this conversation because there is so much going on in the crypto industry writ large, but also and in particular in the legal lane. And so that's what I do on a bi-weekly basis. I may even start doing these weekly because it's difficult to reduce our 30 minutes together with just 3 single points. I have those today. And then I'm actually going to do an update on the Crypto for Harris town hall that I was a part of. I will drop that information in the show notes so that you all have access to the replay. Chuck Schumer made some huge news. There are a number of electeds from New York at the state and also the federal level, really giving strength to the idea that crypto is not a partisan issue. We are in a hyper-partisan cycle, to be sure. But this technology is for all. That was the intention. Obviously, with Choke Point 2.0 during this Biden administration, that actually made what was political partisan. But this really is, at a bare minimum, bipartisan effort. And so Chuck Schumer's promise to bring forth bipartisan legislation that is supportive of the crypto industry was really big news. I'll get to that at the end. But first, let me welcome you if you don't know who I am or if this is the first time that you are joining me. I am Professor Tanya Evans. I'm a full tenured professor at Penn State Dickinson Law School, co-hire appointment at the Penn State Institute for Computational and Data Sciences. There is something to learn for everyone, and I'm going to keep it current. No hype, no BS, and we keep it real here. At the end of the day, this is to ensure that the industry moves forward. And this is a space where you have to lean into lifelong learning. There is something new every single day. And so if you are not aware of what is going on a regular basis, or you're not tracking the news, or you just want a different point of view or keeping up with the latest trends, then I hope you will continue to join me here for FinTech Law Briefings. Today, we are focused specifically on 3 topics. The first topic that I want to talk about is the long-awaited resolution of the legal dispute between Ripple and the Securities and Exchange Commission, also referred to in the alphabet soup of the SEC. So a little background and context for this, because I think it's important if you haven't been following XRP, Ripple Labs, and this contentious fight, really over one of the best and strongest actors, good faith participants, stakeholders in the space. So Ripple Labs was founded in 2012, and it is the issuer of XRP, which is a cryptographically secured digital currency. It's a technology. Ripple Labs is a technology company that specializes in digital payment protocols and exchanges. Its native digital currency, as I said, is XRP. It was created to facilitate quick and inexpensive cross-border payments. And as a fun fact, Ripple or XRP was one of the first tokens that I actually purchased in the space. I learned pretty early on. So for those who don't know my background, I talk about it quite a bit in my book, Digital Money Demystified. However, it was at the end of 2017, I'd read an academic piece on the intersection of intellectual property and blockchain technology. It also made reference to what I used to consider magic internet money. I didn't understand where it was, where it came from, and why it was important to have some private peer-to-peer mechanism to exchange value. So I kind of put that to the side for the second and really tried, at least in my academic egghead type of view, what was going on at the intersection of my area of expertise, which is intellectual property and new technologies, and distributed ledgers, decentralized finance. Didn't truly understand and appreciate any of it at the time, but I did feel a special responsibility to learn as much as I possibly could in order to train the next wave of lawyers to be conversant in the space. Because one thing I knew, this technology was poised and positioned to be the next iteration of the internet and had the reality to change everything in terms of the course of the direction of finance and business and entertainment and protections, digital protections, or protections of digital assets. So I kind of leaned in. It was the the winter of 2017. I was on break. I was teaching at the University of New Hampshire's Franklin Pierce School of Law and on my way to be the associate dean there. And I think I was visiting my mom at the time. I came out of my room and just basically probably had a tinfoil hat on my head and said, this is going to change the world. I have to go out and tell everyone. And that began my course into the rabbit hole, as it were, to really try and figure out how this made sense. I also quickly realized that I couldn't fully appreciate the value of time-stamped, decentralized records of transactions and balance information if I didn't understand and really lean into the first use case. And that's when I read Satoshi's white paper, 9 pages. I think it's 7 footnotes, completely revolutionized finance and the ability to use the same technologies that have been around for a while. We had peer-to-peer technologies that people used to use for quote unquote file sharing as an intellectual property lawyer focusing on copyright and trademark, but copyright in particular. A lot of that was probably copyright infringement, but that's a story for another day. But using that same technology to remove the middle person that would route information between person A and person B. Now person A and person B could exchange at the time messages that were packets of entertainment without an intermediary. Fast forward to Web3, fast forward to the use of peer-to-peer technology and certainly the internet consensus protocols, a method of decentralizing agreement around what the state of this record of transactions is at any given time, all driven by software that is transparent, but very, very difficult to undo, almost impossible until maybe quantum computing takes us somewhere else. I say all of that, and there are more videos about this on YouTube at the FinTech Academy for Advantage Evans. But I say all that to say, understanding the impact from a business and legal point of view necessitated that I learn enough to know the who, the what, the where, when, how, and why at the level that I was able to appreciate at the time. And with each year that passed and each course, I teach blockchain, crypto, and law. I teach administrative law, information privacy law, host of other things, interconnectedness of this and the potential implications beyond. So that's just a little background around even my approach to this area that I commend to you as well. Back to XRP, created to facilitate quick and inexpensive cross-border transactions. And that made Ripple a key player in the cryptocurrency market early on in 2012. Bitcoin is the OG. Bitcoin is hard and sound money. Bitcoin, there will only and ever be 21 million. The Bitcoin protocol has been around since January 9th, 2009, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely January of 2009. There is nothing like it. That being said, there are thousands of other coins and tokens that add considerable value to everyday lives. And XRP, in my humble opinion, is certainly one of them. This is not legal or financial advice, but I do want you to understand how Ripple's technology is used, often used by financial institutions, fun fact, and really to streamline the back end of international payments so they don't have to go in and out of foreign exchange currencies. It is making it better, faster, and cheaper to move money around the world. I don't know if that savings is always passed on to us as the end user, but this technology is already being used by financial institutions to streamline international payments. So XRP's role within Ripple's payment network has always been a point of contention. It's actually something that I didn't fully appreciate when I first bought XRP, when I first entered the system. I know you all can't tell, but I'm really one of the most risk-averse people in the space. I'm a lawyer. I'm licensed to practice law in Pennsylvania and New Jersey and New York and the District of Columbia. I'm trained to see all of the legal issues and the problems and to be a problem solver. So in this industry, I saw nothing but problems. But there is a distinction between the Ripple protocol that banks are using on the back end to facilitate international transactions and its token XRP, which is the target of quite a bit of regulatory scrutiny. The concern from an SEC point of view was that XRP was an unregistered security. So in 2020, the SEC filed a lawsuit against Ripple Labs. It was in December of 2020, alleging that XRP was an unregistered security. The SEC argued that Ripple's sale of XRP to raise funds in order to build the project was akin to an IPO or an initial public offering without proper registration with the SEC here in the United States. And therefore, the legal argument was that Ripple's continuous sale of XRP since 2013 constituted the sale of an unregistered security, as XRP buyers were allegedly led to expect profit from Ripple's efforts. And that comes from the Supreme Court case of Howey. You probably have heard of the Howey test. If you're a securities lawyer, you know this better than I, a legal standard that is used from the Supreme Court to determine whether a transaction qualifies as an investment contract and therefore a security. There are other ways, but this is what we focus on most in the crypto space. So the argument was that SEC maintained XRP passed the Howey test, and by passing the Howey test means that it was a security and that investors were led to expect profits and efforts based on, I should say, Ripple's efforts to create and maintain a market for XRP. Ripple, of course, pushed back, arguing that XRP functions as a currency similar to Bitcoin, which is deemed to be a commodity on day one, and therefore did not fall under the SEC's purview. And I have been quite vocal about the SEC overreach, as an administrative law professor, seeing that the enabling legislation that was passed by Congress in the 30s in order to create the SEC and create the framework or the rules under which the SEC would operate, also knowing that there's a great degree of latitude with this independent agency to make rules that apply across the board to all interested parties, but also their enforcement mechanism to enforce rules, regulations, and laws. And my argument constantly that SEC at the with Gary Gensler at the helm. He's no stranger to crypto, so you can't make the argument he doesn't know about the industry, but taking the position and moving forward as kind of the anti-crypto boss in chief, although other agencies have approached with a decidedly anti-crypto approach. And I am educating, advocating, prioritizing the arguments that this is a bipartisan issue that should not succumb to any particular political influence. It's hyper-partisan and hyper-political now, but it need not be, and that's not where we started. So this case is really, really important to the crypto industry, and every lawyer, whether or not you focus on securities law, should be able to spot this issue when you have clients who are coming to ask about this. There are many legal milestones, significant milestones in this legal battle. Ripple's price and market position greatly suffered. This harmed not just the company, but also all XRP holders. So if the SEC is supposed to protect investors and markets, they didn't do a very good job. The uncertainty caused by the lawsuit without proper guidance on the rulemaking side, I continue to say incalculable harm. Several exchanges delisted XRP or removed it from trading pairs. That had a deleterious impact over time. And I'm proud of those who, I don't know the folks personally working on this effort, but Ripple mounted a hell of a strong defense, challenged the SEC at every turn, challenged the assertions, gained support from various industry players and experts who argued that the SEC's approach was inconsistent, it was harmful, and actually an agency overreach. Key moments in the case include the court's rulings on motions from both sides. The discovery process was extremely lengthy, but very revealing. It showed internal SEC documents and eventually led to summary judgment. Throughout the litigation, Ripple's defense really focused on the lack of clear regulatory guidance from the SEC regarding digital assets. And keep in mind again, the SEC has rulemaking authority, promulgating rules that would apply across the board to the industry, and also the ability on a one-to-one basis, literally sue and take enforcement action against a particular industry participant. The SEC chose the latter, and so left the rest of the industry trying to say, do my facts mirror and match? Is this squarely on point? Is it distinguishable on law, on fact, on both? Impossible for good faith industry participants to rely on it. So it is complete FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt that good faith stakeholders and industry leaders don't want rules, don't want laws, want to act without any framework, any rules of engagement. That couldn't be farther from the truth. But also suing with reckless abandon some of the best blue chip industry participants, and makes me think of Coinbase, comes to mind, to be sure, and certainly from Ripple Labs. It just is unconscionable when at the same time you have something like the FTX and Alameda research debacle. So that was extremely harmful. Final point here, so that we can kind of keep it moving. I could go on all day on this particular topic, but I bring it to your attention. I'll send, for those of you who are already signed up to receive information about fintech law briefings, I will continue to send you some additional information, but also DYOR, do your own research to stay abreast. But when the SEC stance is rooted in the Howey test, and I don't think that it met its burden, and nor did the court, and these cases have been closely watched. Ultimately here, there's a mixed ruling, and I guess we kind of count it all joy. A partial win is a partial win. It's a mixed ruling. So it's a significant moment for the broader cryptocurrency market in the fact that this has the potential to set a precedent for how digital assets are regulated in the United States. The court ultimately ruled that Ripple's programmatic sales of XRP did not constitute the sale of unregistered securities because they were conducted through blind transactions where buyers did not know that they were purchasing from Ripple. However, the court did find that Ripple's direct sales of XRP to institutional investors did violate securities laws. So again, a mixed ruling. but provide some clarity, perhaps about how digital assets might be classified. The ruling may lead to a more tailored regulations or even to new legislation to address the unique nature of digital assets, balancing, which is always my point, and I believe should be the stance of lawyers in the space, protecting investors with the need simultaneously to foster innovation. Maybe just a final point that moving ahead, Ripple is likely to continue advocating for clearer regulatory guidelines. We see that Coinbase's Stand with Crypto movement is being very well regarded across the community. There are many of us who participate in it, regardless of the tribal wars around coins and tokens and projects. What we all can agree on is that we want a clear environment, regulatory environment. We want safe rules. We want to know that this business will stay here in the United States and not move overseas. And that's going to come with clarity and a better mix of relying on rules in addition to enforcement and not enforcement alone. Have you ever found yourself puzzled, wondering if cryptocurrency is just a fleeting trend, a scam, or perhaps the future? Hi, I'm Dr. Tanya Evans, and I'm here to introduce you to my new book, Digital Money Demystified, Your Ultimate Guide to Deciphering the Crypto Maze. As a legal policy and crypto education expert, I've crafted this book to cut through the chaos, debunk the myths, and tackle the FUD. That's fear, uncertainty, and doubt. From captivating headlines to meticulously sourced data, I guide you through the promises and the pitfalls of digital assets. With 12 chapters and 10 myths dispelled, Digital Money Demystified is designed for investors, business owners, and professionals eager to navigate the digital economy. It's more than just a book. It's a tool for economic empowerment that directs you safely and confidently from cash to crypto. Say goodbye to bewilderment and hello to enlightenment. Transform from crypto curious to confident. Sidestep those scammers and embrace the future of work, wealth, and creativity. Grab your copy of Digital Money Demystified today at the book's companion website, digitalmoneydemystified.com, or wherever books are sold. This is the right book, the right voice at the right time. Don't miss out on the digital revolution. Stop by digitalmoneydemystified.com now. The next topic that I wanted to share with you today, the recent enforcement action in a settlement agreement between Customers Bank and the Federal Reserve. So a bit of background here. Customers Bank is a Pennsylvania-based financial institution known for its innovative approach to banking services, particularly in the areas of digital banking and fintech or financial technology partnerships. And the bank has grown rapidly in recent years, embraces the technology, offers competitive banking solutions. However, the growth has, of course, also brought increased regulatory scrutiny, particularly as the bank expanded its digital and cross-border payment services. Now, before the settlement agreement, Customers Bank had already faced challenges related to regulatory compliance, especially concerning anti-money laundering practices pursuant to the Bank Secrecy Act. And these issues, combined with the rapid expansion, prompted a closer look from regulators, leading to the enforcement action by the Federal Reserve. And the settlement, which can be regarded as an enforcement action, is a kind of a broad definition of that term. So even settlement agreements are called enforcement actions, but the settlement highlights the importance of compliance as banks increasingly integrate financial services into their offerings. I guess this information for banks and those who represent them used to be a nice to have because, the word on the banking street was don't touch crypto with a 10-foot pole, which absolutely continued to cause kind of this shadow banking, debanking, or the absence of a connection between digital services, crypto services more specifically, and the ability to get a bank account in the United States, which is a disaster and, in my humble opinion, decidedly un-American. But the details are quite interesting for this enforcement action. It's primarily driven by the bank's deficiencies in its AML and Bank Secrecy Act compliance, that's critical for preventing illicit activities, money laundering, terrorist financing, you name it. So the Fed found that Customers Bank had failed to adequately monitor and to report suspicious transactions, which is a key requirement under banking law. So part of the settlement, the Customers Bank agreed to enhance its internal controls, including hiring additional compliance personnel, upgrading its transaction monitoring systems, et cetera. And the bank also committed to regular audits and reporting to the Fed to ensure ongoing compliance. And the settlement serves kind of as a warning to other banks. It's the same kind of regulation by enforcement. We're dealing with one particular actor in the industry, but again, others are left to read the tea leaves as to their own practices about the importance of maintaining robust compliance programs, particularly as they adopt new technologies. To talk just a bit about the Federal Reserve's role in enforcement, because I think that was an interesting point, and I didn't see a lot of commentary talking about that, only about the settlement. But the Fed plays a crucial role in overseeing the safety and soundness of the U.S. banking system. That includes ensuring that banks comply with federal laws, regulations, and one of its primary responsibilities is to monitor banks' adherence to AML and to the Bank Secrecy Act, or BSA. Those are designed to prevent financial institutions from being used as conduits for illicit activity. So the Fed's enforcement actions are typically reserved for cases where there is a significant compliance failure, not the one-off, not the occasional, not going to get this 100% right. But when they looked behind into the specific practices over time, evidently warnings before, there were significant compliance failures that could pose a significant risk to the financial system. So in the case of Customers Bank, the Federal Reserve's involvement really does underscore the seriousness of compliance lapses. So this should be the forefront of an attorney's mind if you're working in this area. And really also read this enforcement action. I thought it was well written. I thought it was quite clear. The enforcement action was aimed at correcting the deficiencies in order to protect both the bank and the broader financial system. Obviously, the Fed has not only the right, but the power and also the responsibility to impose penalties, to require corrective or remediation or corrective actions. And that really is the key to maintaining the integrity of the banking system, particularly as banks start to enter the deep end of the ocean with respect to digital assets. Kind of lessons. Let me end on this particular point and then move on to my final topic. I think one of the key lessons as I was reflecting on the enforcement action, kind of the timing of it as well, again, maintaining that proactive and comprehensive approach, knowing and doing everything that a bank is required to do. But if you're representing the bank, also making sure that you have clarity and do everything you're supposed to, but nothing that would go beyond that and potentially expose the bank in particular to liability that it did not have unless and until it acted in a way beyond. So what does that look like? What are the prudent measures? Investing in technology, training staff, conducting regular audits to identify and to address potential compliance issues. And financial institutions also have to be transparent and cooperative with regulators. Now, with the caveat, when I think about being cooperative with the SEC, there are many good faith actors on that side, not talking about the Fed, but the SEC for a moment, that went in to this open door policy, engaged with the SEC only to find themselves getting a Wells notice that there was some enforcement action coming down the pike, or they were going to be sued in some capacity. So I guess that's the thanks that they get. But here on the Fed side, working to the extent possible and cooperating, being transparent with regulators, working closely, taking corrective measures promptly. I think that reduces the exposure and the risk to to banks, and to the impact of enforcement actions. The ding to, the reputational harm of being involved in this, I think, is not something to be overstated or underestimated. So care there. The final topic that I want to address and then say a few things about last night's Crypto for Harris town hall with so many electeds at the federal and state level and industry leaders and also candidates. It was just a wonderful opportunity. I'm grateful and happy to have been part. But this third topic is about Senator Cynthia Lummis from Wyoming. It's Lummis like hummus. Met with her recently at a fly-in on behalf of DCG, Digital Currency Group. I'm a member of the board, and we had a founder fly-in. I think it was in April or May of this year. Don't quote me on that, but definitely this year, a few months ago. Time is like a flat circle at this point to me. Let me talk about her proposal and also the GOP nominee, Donald Trump's proposal for a strategic reserve for Bitcoin. You will start to hear more and more about this, that we are truly in the trenches when it comes to the final 80-ish days and counting until Election Day. And if you haven't already done so, please visit electingcrypto.com. That's electingcrypto.com. I set up this kind of like nonpartisan website that tracks activities for any elected, but in particular, the presidential candidates, Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, in their stance on crypto. We're really looking to Vice President Harris's campaign to give some firm signal about, hopefully, I've written a lot about this in CoinDesk, Fortune, and now Forbes magazine about a potential reset on the Democratic side to move away from choke point 2.0, to move away from regulation by enforcement, and to really lean in to the future of work and wealth and creativity in a way that honors users and consumers and investors and also builders and innovation. So I'll talk more about that later in future conversations. And I have a lot of that at our Advantage Evans FinTech Academy. So again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see more information there. But Senator Lummis has been a vocal advocate for Bitcoins. He's definitely a Bitcoin maxi. I think she would appreciate me mentioning that, but for Bitcoin and its potential role in the U.S. economy. And she's consistently argued that Bitcoin represents a new form of digital gold. You can compare Bitcoin to physical gold. We call it digital gold because of the strong use case for a store of value, given that you have hard sound money, a cap of 21 million, over 19 million are already in circulation as well. So as more people come for this verifiably scarce asset, it's likened to digital gold, although it's easier to get, it's easier to divide, it's easier to store, et cetera, et cetera. So the idea of having Bitcoin as digital gold offers a hedge against inflation and a way to preserve value in an uncertain economic environment. Think about when Bitcoin first came on the scene with the gangster lien back in January 2009. You know, the first transaction that Satoshi sent comes with metatag information about the financial crisis, that it was not an accident. So Bitcoin was built for this time. It's built for any unstable time as an alternative and a private store of value, medium of exchange, unit of account, et cetera, when you think of currency. So former President Trump, he also has an evolving stance on cryptocurrencies. In 2019, he and his administration were not a fan under Mnuchin's leadership. When you think about the Treasury, Trump called Bitcoin a scam made from thin air. It was terrible. It's basura, it's trash, all of those things. Fast forward to now in an election year and looking to raise money. And the crypto industry has a ton of money thanks to Fairshake and other PACs and Bitcoiners in particular, but a lot of heavyweights and industry leaders who are sick of choke point 2.0, sick of trying to advocate, sick of playing nicely with others, and wants to back a candidate who at least says that he is supportive. Doesn't appear to know much about it. I think he probably relies on his sons and others around him to talk about it. I will believe that a shift from hate it to love it when I see it. But if we can believe that that can take place, we certainly have to leave room for Vice President Harris as she, after only 3 weeks of being at the top of the ticket, is staffing up, is being advised, is preparing for the DNC, and is preparing to roll out her economic package. Will that include an explicit statement about cryptocurrency? Time will tell. Will we have to read tea leaves by other signals about a break from Biden's approach? Also, keep in mind, if you've ever had a boss, I'm pretty sure that you haven't agreed and been in lockstep with everything they said. Listen, I'm a witness. I'm here to tell you that as an associate dean, I carry the water for my administration, and I carried the water to move that school forward. I did not always agree with the dean, but at the end of the day, I would voice my opinion and we'd walk out and show a united front. I imagine when you serve at the pleasure of the president in your vice presidential capacity, there are things that you agree with and things that you don't. She has a day job to be the vice president of the United States and also run and distinguish herself on a range of issues. And to do this in the time of 3 weeks, where most people take at least a year. I don't know Vice President Harris personally, but I do know leadership. And most of us, when we start a new job or at least auditioning for a new job, we don't even know where our office is. We don't know where the copy room is. We don't know where the bathroom key is. So let's pump the brakes and let reasonable minds work this out. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox for that now. Both Senator Lummis and former President Trump have leaned into this idea of proposing a strategic reserve of Bitcoin. We have a lot of strategic reserves. There is still gold there, even though we're not on the gold standard. We hold all kinds of foreign currencies, et cetera, et cetera. And this idea of a strategic reserve of Bitcoin is part of a broader vision to integrate digital assets into the U.S. financial system. That is something that will take a long time to do, but these are the proposals that are out. So how are strategic reserves typically used by governments? They are used by governments around the world, and certainly the United States, to stockpile essential resources, gold, oil. They're used in times of crisis or economic instability. And so the proposal to create a strategic reserve of Bitcoin represents an interesting application. It's novel in the sense that it's dealing with digital assets, but not novel because there are other assets held in strategic reserves. But this is interesting, an interesting shift to see how digital assets might be perceived by governments as an additional valued asset like other assets. So to add may just be purely symbolic. Maybe it's a horrible idea. I'm still kind of sitting on the sidelines of it myself. I've been kind of listening to and reading various economic approaches to this from economists on either side of this coin, pun intended. But to add Bitcoin as a strategic reserve would recognize Bitcoin not just as a speculative asset, but a strategic resource with long-term value and could move this country to also encourage other countries to consider similar strategies as well. That could potentially lead to a new era of digital asset accumulation by nation states. I don't think that was the grand vision of Satoshi Nakamoto for Bitcoin, but here we are. The rationale is basically hedge against economic uncertainty, promoting financial innovation, and also national security considerations. From a national security perspective, holding a reserve of Bitcoin could provide the U.S. with an additional layer of financial security in the event of some global economic instability or geopolitical tensions in a way that other currencies would not suffice. When you think about the digital currency that moves from wallet to wallet, as opposed to like physical gold or foreign currencies or other things, intellectual property, I don't know, whatever else might be held in strategic reserve. So Bitcoin's decentralized nature means it's not subject to the control of a single government or entity. And maybe we come to a point in the United States where that is a benefit because not being beholden to a central intermediary, least most of which would be a government, maybe a government that we're at odds with, that could be potentially valuable in times of crisis. It could be particularly important as global power dynamics continue to shift. So the proposal considers the potential for Bitcoin to serve as a tool for financial independence. Clearly, Bitcoin could offer a reliable alternative to conducting transactions and preserving wealth over time. We're talking long game, not short game here. Final point, by holding Bitcoin, the United States could reduce its reliance on traditional financial systems that might be vulnerable to external pressures or manipulation. Now, there are a range of challenges. The economic impact, if the U.S. were to adopt a strategic reserve of Bitcoin, could have a significant impact on the global current cryptocurrency market, right? The increased demand from a major economy like the United States could drive up the price of Bitcoin exponentially. If you're Bitcoin maxi, that's the day that you've been waiting for. That could lead to greater interest and investment in the digital asset space, could further legitimize Bitcoin for sure. But on the other hand, the introduction of Bitcoin into national reserves could also lead to increased market volatility. We already have a pretty volatile chart, given that we have this nascent asset class. And I, as an aside, I did a recent talk that evaluated or like kind of overlaid the Bitcoin chart with NASDAQ, S&P 500, the NIS as well, and showed the extreme volatility in early markets that evened out over time. And if past is prologue, that's what I imagine for Bitcoin chart and Bitcoin markets. But you have this macroeconomic impact that sends the chart off the charts. And that certainly could lead to outsized effects on the market, potentially leading to price swings, violent price swings, the impact on the dollar, particularly if Bitcoin were seen as a competitor to the dollar status. I think the United States is very worried about any potential threat to the United States dollar. USD around the world is the current global reserve currency. And imagine a world, I absolutely can imagine a world where USD is replaced, not tomorrow, not next year, maybe not 5 years, but I imagine a world where Bitcoin becomes the global reserve currency and displaces the United States dollar. So maybe it's inevitable. Maybe we can't stop it. Maybe we shouldn't stop it. Food for thought. And certainly regulatory and legal challenges. So implementing a strategic Bitcoin reserve that requires significant changes to the current legal and regulatory framework. We're coming out of a do nothing Congress. What are we, 118th? They did less than any other legislative session than any other in modern history. So all of this, including legal challenges arising from international implications, et cetera. There's a lot to contemplate. So an idea that at least shows interest is one thing, but the devil's in the details there as well. Huge strategic and geopolitical implications, really kind of difficult to imagine like what the future outlook can be for that, the broader implications for cryptocurrency adoption. I think that's great, but it's complicated. But it's interesting that at this moment in time, this has entered into this being a discussion, a robust discussion across party lines, which you will hear in statements from last night from Chuck Schumer, governor from Colorado. And it makes me think of a range of legislators from Dan Goldman to Wiley Nickel. It was really, really fantastic. Richie Torres was unable to enter, but he had some things to say. We had like Dante Disparte from Circle to participate, Sheila Warren from the Crypto Council for Innovation. Really, really fantastic. Justin Slaughter from Paradigm. There's some heavy hitters in the space who are working tirelessly. And a final point, I had the great fortune of hosting a panel that's specifically acknowledged what I called hidden crypto figures. It's kind of a riff off of the movie Hidden Figures that was based on a true story of how the early computers were people, right? And women, and actually Black women who were working behind and solving some of NASA's most serious challenges, but often hidden. We have that same thing playing out at the intersection of tech and finance, where there is a lot of systemic marginalization and actually an underrepresentation of communities of color in general, women in particular, in finance, in technology. I feel like tech and finance had a baby. Now we have crypto. And so it's a microcosm of that concern. So I thought it very important, as did the planners for the event, to make sure that the Democrats who are leaning into Harris and pressing on the point of a reset and a pivot away from anti-crypto policies to pro-crypto policies, whenever you have a change in administration, this is just what we do. that was important to recognize some of the trailblazers in that regard. Despite leading, well, let me put it this way. When you think of, there was a new survey that Justin Slaughter from Paradigm shared, and I also have it at electingcrypto.com. You can see a survey from Paradigm that reveals 62% of crypto voters, really a diverse and rapidly growing segment of the electorate that's separate than industry. It's like actual end users, actual hodlers, owners, and also builders more outside of the United States than in. But so many Black and brown folks view their stance on cryptocurrency as a core factor influencing their voting decisions. It is not the top line issue, because there are other things, in my humble opinion, like saving democracy. And so we had Democrats, independents, and Republicans, long life Republicans, that are looking for an alternative. And this town hall was meant to explore that. Both the statistics of impact to owners and builders reflects an increasing political power of the crypto community, particularly among Black and brown voters who see digital assets as a means to economic empowerment and financial independence. So the Paradigm survey, also found that 70% of these voters believe that crypto can play a significant role in closing the wealth gap in America. And that underscores the transformative potential of this technology for historically marginalized communities. I talk a bit about this in a full chapter in my book, Digital Money Demystified. Also tweet quite often about these topics. Make sure that you're following me at IP Prof, like intellectual property professor, IP Prof Evans, around the web on socials. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the 3 amazing women who joined us. I will drop a link so that you can all see them. First, we had Carmel Cadet. She's the visionary founder and CEO of MTech, who is transforming financial inclusion with her groundbreaking work in central bank digital currencies and really providing a bridge between TradFi and DeFi. And next, Krissa McFarland. She's one of the first people I met in the space. She is from Atlanta, if I remember correctly. I remember speaking down there when she first launched some of her business parts to Patientory. Patientory is the name of that company. Innovative founder and CEO of Patientory. She revolutionized healthcare by securing patient data through blockchain technology. Last but certainly not least, Odila Holloway. She's the co-founder of DNA Legacy Blockchain Brokerage. So Google them, learn more about them. Recognize that this is actually a big tent and you often don't see the faces behind this move, not just about the VC industry leaning into oftentimes number go up and also having fantastic projects, but also the end user, the day-to-day person, the person who's hodling, the person who is actively using for remittances, maybe to fund a business, maybe to enter the business space. And maybe they're not an investor, but in some way building in the space, critically important. So let's paint with a broad brush. Let's keep an open mind. Bitcoin is the people's money, and it ushered in thousands of opportunities to reimagine our relationship with money, with value, with self-determination, with cooperative economics, with collective work and responsibility. These are all central tenets and principles of Kwanzaa that actually align quite amazingly with the ethos and the spirit of kind of the OGs in the Bitcoin space, who tended to be democratic, certainly libertarian. And we've kind of gotten away from that in this environment. You know, that was in a time before there was significant value that we could actually see. I guess it was before Bitcoin Pizza Day. And now we're kind of in the second iteration of what it means to be connected to the industry with an eye toward what we want it to be. Luckily, Bitcoin doesn't care about any of this, but we do, and we're here. So all the lawyers, legal industry folks, to any professional, to any leader, lawyer or learner who wants to continue, make sure you are connected and subscribed to receive the updates for the next FinTech law briefing. I will keep it coming. Final point, make sure that you are subscribed to and receiving my Substack newsletter and connected with me on LinkedIn. You can find out all of that information at proftanyaevans.com. That's PROF All right, till next time, be good to yourself and others. Thank you for connecting with me for this presentation. I look forward to future opportunities, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the Tech Intersect podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you love it, please tell the world. If not, go ahead and tell me. And in either case, drop a comment or ping me on social media at IPProfEvans with the hashtag Tech Intersect. And finally, a quick reminder on digital safety. There are a lot of scammers out there impersonating me and others, and I need your help. Now hear this, and remember, I will never slide into your DMs to say peace and blessings or hey, and I will never reach out to solicit your time or your money on social media like ever. I'm not a trader. I am an educator and an attorney licensed in 4 states. Thank you very much. I'm here to inform, inspire, and empower. No cap and definitely no Forex. So be careful, make good choices, and remember, I developed an entire free masterclass about the topic of digital safety in the crypto space. So check out secureyourcryptobag.com for more information. That's secureyourcryptobag.com. All right, that's all for this episode. Until next time, continue to shine. Hey there, Tech Intersect listeners. Have you ever encountered naysayers claiming crypto is too volatile, a total scam, or a hacker's paradise? Well, it's time to dispel these persistent myths and reveal the truth. It's exactly why I wrote Digital Money Demystified, available now wherever books are sold. And this book is your golden ticket from being crypto curious to radiating crypto confidence. Navigate the crypto world with clarity and conquer the chaos. Get your copy today to learn about my journey, separate fact from fiction, and maybe even embark on a transformative journey yourself. Don't stop there. Enhance your learning experience exponentially. Join the DMD Insiders Membership Club. It's a gateway to premier coaching, engaging community, and unparalleled content that complements the insights in the book. Together, we'll unlock the potential of digital money and stride confidently into the future. Visit digitalmoneydemystified.com, grab your guide to the crypto universe, and become an esteemed member of our Insiders Club. Let's decode the digital dollar and invest in your crypto-savvy future right now.